Now let's add the IR headlamp object detection to our line following and see if we can actually follow the line and detect an object without physically touching it. So the way to do this is we want to start with our program that we've already created to follow the line that uses the whiskers. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to go into our our working directory, and we want to think about which of these programs was what was working. Now this is where it's very important to save all your work. So if you think back, we did QTI activity 3 line following whiskers, and so if I start this sketch right here, let me quiet down that guy over there. What I'll have is I will have this new sketch, and I can bring it over, and the first thing I'll do is I'll save it off. So this one right now will follow a line using the basics left right, and then it'll, if the whiskers are touched, it has this if-then statement, and basically it'll do its thing. It'll stop and play a tone. So I'm going to go File, Save As, and then let's do this. I'm going to come in here to Arduino, and I'm going to do activity. I'm going to say activity. I want to do, it's cute. This is actually chapter 7, activity 4. Okay, so this is just to try to match the Parallax tutorial. We're not doing every single one of them. So line following with, we'll call it IR headlamps. Okay. Okay, so now we got this, exact same thing, it's going to follow the line. And now think about all we need to do here, okay? So testing line follower, and we'll put a comment in here with IR, and let's walk through this. So the first thing it does, the servo's obviously attached, you print your serial monitor, you play a series of tones to know you're up and running, you create your instance, then you attach the motors, and then they're stopped, and then you set up the whiskers, and then you go into your loop. Well, guess what? All we need to do is let's go ahead and, after we set up the whiskers, let's set up the IR headlamps. And look how easy this is. I just do a pin mode. Pin 9 is an output, and that's the IR LED. And then I do a pin mode, pin 10 input, and that is the IR detector. And now I've set up the circuits. Okay, so I've set up the pins. Our life is good. Now let's think about what we do when we're in the loop here. So I come along and I'm sitting here going, read whiskers. Well, why don't we read the whiskers? Then actually, let's read the IR sensor first, because the read whiskers is really this entire thing, right? So it's that chunk of code, and then actually it's more, it's all the way to there. Then we go into this guy right here, into the decision to move the motors. Let's go ahead and read the IR thing immediately. So all we do is copy in the code from before, and I'll type it just so we slow it down a little bit, but pin or tone 38,008, and that turns on the pin 9. It turns on the IR LED for about 1 millisecond. Then I delay 1, and then I'm ready to read. So I go ahead, and remember in this sketch we don't have this signal created yet, so I declare a new signal or a new variable of type byte, and I'm going to call it IR detect. And I simply do a digital read from pin 10, and then I can delay a little bit, but I don't need to delay too much. Let's try just delaying 1, and actually let's delay 2, just so that we delay 1, let the thing bounce back, the IR bounce back. Then we go ahead and read from it, and then delay 2. Then we go read the whiskers, boom boom, and then the read whiskers takes a little bit longer. Read whiskers is easy, but this is the QTI sensor right here, so that's the line follower, so that's that. Then we come down here and look at our motion. It's pretty simple, right? It's basically if the whisker left or whisker right is a 0, then you want to halt, play a tone, and then repeat. If there's nothing there, you're going to go into this veer left, veer right. All we need to do is let's go ahead and just add in another OR statement that says if IR detect equals 0, then go ahead and halt. So this should follow the line, and if either the whiskers or the IR detect is asserted, we should be able to see it. So I'm going to go ahead and plug in the cable, and I'll go ahead and download this. And it's, of course, it's got a prior program on there, so it's freaking out. So let's go ahead and it's going to work for a second. And as always, let's bring up the old Arduino, or the serial monitor. Okay, and then here we are. So here's the serial monitor. And okay, so we're getting uploaded here. Let's hang on. I got it's connected, serial monitor's up. It's the only program running. I got it right here. So I've got my maze, or my course set up. I got my line. There's my new program. Okay, life is good. Now, at this moment in time, I have the power in position 1. And what that means is that I'm not powering the servos. But I should be able to still put my hand here, and it lights up. So everything's powered except for the servos. And this is that high-pitch 6K tone that it can barely do. But look at this. I'm not touching these whiskers. I am way out here. So I'm way out here. But what's cool about it is the whiskers still work. The whiskers still work. Now the key here is, will it follow a line? Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and settle everything down here, and I'm going to reset it. And we'll go ahead, put it in position 2, and see what happens. There it goes, doing its horrible left-right algorithm, and it's just following the line. Let's just see what happens if this book's in the way. And it starts seeing it, and now all of a sudden it's like getting closer and closer and closer, and there it is. It stopped. Now, you can't even see that from that angle, can you? So let's do this. Let's say it's cruising left. So there you go. So see it's cruising up on it, and it finally stops. Okay. What's interesting about it is that when you do this, the IR actually will bounce relative to the angle of this, so it will bounce off of it. So if I do this, it'll actually bounce to a different degree, or it'll actually go off that way. And the color of the book is a big deal too. So like, for example, if you're on a white page, it really sees it because the energy is bouncing off. But if I have this like really dark, kind of dark blue, it has a tough time seeing it. And it's the exact same thing as with the line. If it's a dark object, it has a little bit trouble seeing it because the dark object is absorbing the IR. That's why, as it's cruising along, it stops immediately when it sees my hand, because my hand is bouncing it all back because it's more white. But this right here, it actually is kind of struggling with it. So interesting. But there you have it. And it's cruising along. One of the things that's kind of interesting to note is that it will see objects a lot further out than you might want it to. So watch it as it kind of goes around the corner. It's beeping because it's starting to see these books that are around it. And it's like they're pretty far away. It doesn't necessarily need to stop at that moment. So one of the things that you can actually slow down its, or you can limit its sensitivity. So let's see here. You go ahead and stop right there. So I'll do that. Okay, let's see. Okay, so, alright, so this buddy's going to come over here. And it's going to do this, and it's just squealing like crazy here, so that's annoying. Let's go ahead and power that down. So one of the things that you can do is, if you look at the sensitivity, you can actually say, okay, so we are as sensitive as you can possibly get on that detector when we send out the pulses at 38 kilohertz. But what if we sent it out at something that wasn't at 38 kilohertz? The sensitivity would go way down. And this plot right here, it's basically showing you, if we had pulsed it at like 42 kilohertz, it's only going to be sensitive out to a certain range, whereas 38 kilohertz is as far out as possible. So if you came back into your sketch and you said, it's detecting things all over the map, and what if I did this at 42,000, okay, instead of what we had before? So let's try that. And what this does is it reduces the sensitivity. So now I'm going to go ahead and try to download this. And there it goes. Okay, so now it's playing our tone, and it's in position 1, so it's not going to go anywhere. And so now let's unplug it, and let's see what the sensitivity looks like now. So I unplug it, and I'm going to go ahead and hit reset, position 2, and now it's going to move. Off it goes. And now it should get closer to the book before it actually stops. So it's a little bit closer. It starts to see it. It's like, oh, okay, now I see you there. And it got pretty close this time, so it's only a couple inches away from it at this point. So, good to go. All right. And then I should be able to stop it at any time with my hand, and it plays its horrible tone. And it's going to cruise around. And let's see, those ones are still pretty close to it. Oh, baby, look at that. So this time it didn't see those books. So see that it didn't see these ones right here because we had reduced the sensitivity. The whiskers still stop it and make the horrible tone. My hand still stops it. And that is awesome. All right, so you give it a shot there, and good luck.